Nothing screams America quite like the majestic bald eagle. This avian predator spends its days soaring miles above the ground and swooping down on prey with lethal speed and precision. But today, we turn our sights to a different type of eagle, the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle and its variant models that served the U.S. Air Force for nearly 55 years. During this time, the F-15 has cemented itself as one of the most influential fighter crafts of the modern age. As of today, the F-15 is in its final years of service, while being slowly phased out by more technologically advanced fighters with better stealth capabilities. Even still, the F-15 has played key roles in some of the most important military operations in the Middle East, racking up numerous accolades, including a perfect aerial combat record. Some would say that the F-15's best years are behind it, but many would argue that this old fighter jet just might still have a few tricks up its sleeves, or wings. To understand the origins of the F-15, we need to go all the way back to the mid-1960s. It was around this time that the newly established U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy were locked in heated arguments over the future of American air power. The Air Force wanted to prioritize raw firepower so that key military ground targets could be bombed to kingdom come, whereas the Navy wanted more focus to be placed on nimble, long-range interceptor aircraft that could defend aircraft carriers against enemy fighters. There was only so much funding to go around, and both branches wanted their mission sets to take first priority. While these arguments continued between the two branches of the military, the Defense Secretary, Robert McNamara, had his own priorities in mind. Old Bobby McNamara cared more about developing multi-role fighter crafts that would maximize cost efficiency. McNamara envisioned a world where the Air Force and Navy could share the same fighters so that parts could be mass-produced and costs could be lowered. In May of 1966, McNamara went so far as to literally beg the two branches to stop bickering and just agree on one type of fighter craft. This resulted in an 18-month study conducted by the military to see if the Air Force and Navy could potentially share the same fighter jets. Much to the dismay of McNamara and the American taxpayer, the study concluded that the two branches' mission sets were just too different. Specialized aircraft would have to be developed for both the Navy and the Air Force. Shortly after this decision, the shiny new MiG-25 was unveiled by Moscow in 1967, which simply outclassed all existing U.S. fighters in speed, altitude, and endurance. The unveiling of the MiG-25 and the decision to allow the Air Force to develop its own fighter jet culminated in a new competition between four military contractors to develop the next generation of Air Force fighters. General Dynamics, Fairchild Republic, North American Rockwell, and McDonnell Douglas all submitted proposals to the Air Force in late 1968. A fun fact that the Air Force hated General Dynamics' proposal so much that General Dynamics was told to not even bother with further research. Thus, the three remaining companies duked it out, with McDonnell Douglas eventually winning the favor of the United States Air Force in 1969. McDonnell Douglas's work was rushed, to say the least. Many steps in the prototype phase were skipped so the new aircraft could start production as soon as possible. After all, the Russians had already unveiled their fancy new MiG-25. McDonnell Douglas created a new aircraft that resembled the F-14 Tomcat, but with fixed wings. It was powered by a Pratt & Whitney F-100 engine that laid down over 29,000 pounds of thrust, making it one of the first fighter jets with the ability to accelerate straight up, even with a full combat payload. The newly developed M61 Vulcan minigun was also slapped into the craft so that it could defend itself in closer-range dogfights. The wings and fuselage were made extra wide by design to maximize the lifting body surface area. The body was so large and wide, in fact, that the infamous fighter mafia, the nerds who would go on to help develop the F-16, criticized the new aircraft for being far too bulky to be a dedicated fighter jet. Regardless of these criticisms, McDonnell Douglas finished development of their new bulky aircraft in just a couple years and named it the F-15 Eagle. The F-15's production was quickly scaled up throughout the 1970s, with upgraded models introduced in 1978. These models, called the F-15C and F-15D, could hold an additional 2,000 pounds of fuel and allowed for more weapons and external fuel tanks to be stored under the wings. Other upgrades included strengthened landing gear and a digital central computer, bringing the F-15 into the modern age. The F-15 was originally designed to be an air superiority fighter, with its primary purpose being air-to-air combat. However, in 1979, McDonnell Douglas teamed up with Hughes to develop the F-15E, which came with enhanced ground strike capabilities. This two-seat variant came with automatic terrain following technology and higher resolution radar systems to help with low-altitude navigation. This more versatile version of the F-15 turned out to be so useful that it became the basis of all further F-15 production. The F-15 has a length of 63 feet, or about 9 Alaskan moose, and a height of about 18 feet. The F-15's most notable physical features might be its comparatively large wings. The F-15 has a wide wingspan of over 42 feet, and the surface area of its wings measures at over 600 square feet, more than twice as large as the wings of an F-16. This bulky design allows the F-15 to have a larger maximum takeoff weight and a much greater fuel capacity, with the ability to store larger fuel tanks. For weapons, the F-15 sports the trusty Vulcan 20mm minigun. It can also have up to 8 surface-to-ground missiles attached to its underwing hardpoints. These hardpoints can also be used for external fuel tanks, as well as cargo pods that can store personal belongings to ensure that the pilots don't have to deal with the headache of checking their bags and dealing with baggage claim.
Jesus. Oh!
While being an American craft, the F-15 saw its first real combat in the late 70s with the Israeli Air Force. During raids against Palestinian factions in Lebanon, F-15s reportedly shot down 15 Syrian MiGs. In the 1982 Lebanon War, F-15s were credited with shooting down 41 Syrian aircraft. During the other engagements with Syria, the Israeli Air Force shot down another 82 Syrian fighters, all while incurring 0 losses. The first American use of the F-15 was during Operation Urgent Fury in Grenada, in which F-15s of the 33rd Tactical Fighter Wing provided air cover for Marines, as well as soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division. As with many pieces of American military technology, the F-15 was able to really earn a name for itself during the Gulf War. During Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm, F-15s accounted for 36 of the 39 air-to-air victories of the U.S. Air Force. F-15E strike variants were also used in air-to-ground attacks where they hunted down Scud missile launchers and artillery encampments using their enhanced radar systems. It is important to note that throughout all of this action, the F-15 was never shot down by an enemy fighter, maintaining an impressive 104-0 record against enemy aircraft. Although several F-15s have been shot down by enemy air defenses, including surface-to-air missiles and anti-aircraft artillery. While the F-15 certainly has some impressive features and a glowing service record, it has had a few defects through its lifespan. In its early service, the F-15 was plagued with reliability and durability issues from its F-100 engines. The Pratt & Whitney F-100 was designed specifically for the F-15 and had extremely ambitious specifications that provided an immense amount of power, but resulted in the engine breaking down more frequently than expected. These issues were so pervasive that Pratt & Whitney was eventually coerced or encouraged by the Air Force to design a replacement engine. In 1986, the F-100-220 engine was installed in both the F-15 and F-16 that prioritized reliability and lower maintenance costs. In 2007, all F-15s were grounded when a National Guard F-15 came apart during flight. It was determined that a critical location in the supporting structure caused the fuselage to separate from the rest of the airframe. A fun fact is that during this time, Alaska had to use fighter jets from the Canadian Air Force to conduct their routine air patrols. Eventually, the overall problem was determined to be fixed, and F-15s were allowed to fly again. However, this issue was so worrisome that General John D.W. Corley is on record as saying the long-term future of the F-15 is in question. Nevertheless, the F-15 continued to serve in the Air Force throughout the global war on terror. When the F-22 Raptor's production was scaled back, the F-15's career was extended to help supplement the number of air superiority fighters. At one point, it was hoped that all F-15s would be in operation until the 2030s. However, it was determined that the aging aircraft was no longer economically sustainable due to structural fatigue. In 2017, it was announced that the F-15's retirement would be planned for the mid-2020s. As of this video, the more standard F-15 models are planned to be retired in 2026. However, the F-15E Strike Eagle, the variant used in air-to-ground bombings, is still hoped to be kept in service until 2030 to help supplement the F-22 and maintain fighter fleet size. While the F-15 may be on its way to the aircraft retirement home, it has been through more than enough to earn its place as a household name. And the lessons learned from its innovative design will influence aircraft development for decades to come.